Hello and welcome to Twerk, a space where you can hear and read about some amazing people, the fantastic jobs they do and the paths that led them to where they are today. I'm here with Lucy. Hi Lucy.
Hello.
Could you tell the listener what it is you do for a living?
Oh, I've got one of these sort of funny titles that you need a metre-long business card for. So it's, and I feel so silly saying it. I'm the Vice President of Performance and Operations for a function at BP called Communications and External Affairs.
Okay,
so there
we've
you
got
go.
to
Fit
figure
that
out.
on a card.
We'll hear that in more detail. And I guess once we hear your stories we go through, that will make more sense.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Let's see.
Maybe. And we're also sitting in your garden, in case people hear birds and a little gust of wind. We're sitting in your garden because it's a lovely day.
Yeah.
And we've got your lovely doggie with us. So
yes, so there might be a few...
random noises.
Random bits and pieces going on.
Okay, so we can figure out how you've become to that amazing title. We're going to track back and talk about little Lucy.
Yeah.
What was she like? What was she into?
So, well, I grew up in the north of England, so in a place called Littleborough up in just near the Pennines, but just outside Manchester, really. So it's quite outdoorsy. So I was always into being outdoors. Got a younger brother. He's 3 years younger than me. So we made dens and, just bikes. And I was out with my friends all day, every day. And that's really what I was into, was being outside.
Being outside.
And I would be out all day, every day. And then, I don't know, school-wise, I mean, I loved school, if I'm honest. I went to, it wasn't the best school, let's say, but I think it was kind of, that's at the root of me, really. It was kind of character building, let's say. It was kind of a decent-sized school, but I don't think many of the kids were really there to learn. They were there to sort of be with their mates. It closed down very quickly after I'd been there, but I loved it because I was there with my friends and, it was kind of in a village, so it was relatively, I had a really nice, fun time through school.
Yeah.
And from an education perspective, I think it was interesting. Yeah. Because it was quite tough in some ways, but...
So, and what were your favourite subjects then?
So, my favourite... I loved languages, really. Yeah. I mean, obviously through primary school you didn't do really any languages, but then French and German were offered at the school, and I did French and German. And I think that's probably one of the places where I got... we just had some... teachers that were great for me because they could see that I wasn't learning anything in the class. Does that make sense? Yeah. Because there wasn't the opportunity to do that. Yes. So I'd actually they'd offer me sort of separate lessons in French and German outside of the classes because they could see that
you're interested, you were capable.
Interested. Yeah. Yeah. So I had some, weird roundabout.
You had free private tuition.
I did. I think they felt so sorry for me. And then went on to do that at A-level. Well, I did. I was going to say,
what did you do at A-levels?
A-levels again was... So I started doing economics, French and German.
Oh, okay.
So I kept both languages up. But then there were only 2 or 3 of us doing German. And something, I can't remember what it was, something had happened to the German teacher and they weren't offering German anymore. I was halfway through my A-level at this point.
Oh, gosh.
So I ended up having to switch because they weren't going to carry on. So I ended up doing economics, French and English literature.
Oh, okay.
Which I did in a year. So again, lots to be grateful for the teachers for because I had 2 English teachers trying to help catch us, the 3 of us, up on a year's worth of English literature. So reading Hamlet at speed.
I was going to say, of all of them to do, English literature.
Yeah,
I remember doing that, yeah. And did you have any idea what you wanted to do at this stage afterwards?
No. Well, I wanted to find something where I could use the languages. Yeah. But it wasn't really clear to me what that would be. But I really enjoyed my A-level, so I went on to do economics with French at university.
Oh, did you? Wow. Okay.
So I did a year, it's a 4-year course. Yeah. So a year of that was at a French university. Yes. University de Franche-Comté, which is in Besançon, which is near sort of Dijon, sort of just north of Geneva. And that's probably the best, that was just the best thing. I had there, the most brilliant time. I loved university just as I loved school. Yeah. 4 years. I went to Birmingham University, which is...
Oh my gosh, that itself is quite... Was it? I mean,
beautiful.
But is it still quite a party uni? Or was it then?
It was then.
It's always been known
now
as quite a party uni, hasn't it?
It is. So there was Aston, which was in the centre, in all the sort of concrete jungle bit. So sometimes, I mentioned Birmingham and people kind of go, ooh, oh. But it's actually out in Edgbaston. It's a massive campus.
Yeah.
And it's fabulous.
Birmingham's got a great reputation, hasn't it?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. Right choice for me.
Yeah.
And then I think the year at university in France, where I was doing economics but studying it in French, was what spurred me on to, make a lot of decisions moving forward. I loved living abroad. I loved being
Was that your
in the
final
culture.
year?
It's third year. So
Third
then I went
year,
back.
then you went back for a year. Okay.
For a year.
Yeah.
So some of my friends had left at that point, but others that I've been in France with were still there. So
then what? What happened?
So
you finish uni, or you're finishing, and what are you thinking?
But I came out of university and just went into the milk round, really. I was sort of... The companies would come and visit Birmingham University. They'd do the milk round of, coming to tell us about their companies. And I just didn't have anything particular in mind and thought, well, I'll get onto one of these...
Sort of intern.
Graduate schemes.
Yeah.
So I think once I'd gone through the rounds, I got Mars and I got Barclays and I got Anderson Consulting.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, well, I'm going to go, and for whatever reason, I chose Barclays, which was a 4-year leadership programme, and it was starting with investment banking. So it was Barclays Deserted Ed at the time. It's now called Barclays Capital. And, so that was it was going to be a 4-year course, 4 different years doing 4 different things, and that's what I started doing.
And hot-footed it down to London?
Hot-footed it to London.
Yeah.
All my friends were going there.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And then there were about 60 people joined Barclays at the same time as me.
So
Amazing.
again, it's just like a uni
friend set.
Yeah.
And then so off into... so Canary Wharf was quite new at the time.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah.
So nobody else was... There were sort of 4 or 5 big companies there. Barclays Deserted Ed. Now, Barclays Capital was one of them. But it was a bit of a white elephant. People were kind of going, oh, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be in the city. So started out there on the equities desk. So I was straight into the world of investment banking, which was it was really interesting. So I got the job at Barclays.
Yeah.
But I took a year.
You deferred
off.
it.
I deferred it.
Yeah.
So I just developed a real yearning for just... going and travel and immersion, and I really didn't mind about doing it on my own. For the most part, I was with other people.
Yes,
but equally,
you were going to go where you were going to go.
Sense of adventure. So it meant that when I did go to Barclays, and I did I did the first year in investment banking, but the second year, I went off to Lisbon because I was working for the private bank.
Okay.
And this will age me again. So. It was the year or a couple of years before we introduced the euro.
Oh, of course, yes. So it was all still other currency.
97 or so. So we were running a
Your
sort
dog
of
doesn't like the euro.
Oh, well, none of us... Well, Britain didn't like the euro. We were like, no thanks. Say no to that.
No.
So we were just on a sort of marketing and customer information program that was trying to help people understand what the euro was going to mean for them. And I did that in Lisbon for 18 months. I mean, I had the best possible time. And obviously, I'm on a leadership, like a graduate program, so looked after in an unbelievable manner. I'd gone, I felt like the first year I'd been on training courses and being winged around the country. We had balls, we had formal dinners, we had events. I felt like, this is brilliant. If this is what work is like, obviously, it wasn't quite like that to come. But in Lisbon, I think I really found my feet because I didn't speak the language. I remember arriving, I was living in a hotel for maybe 3-4 weeks, and then I had an apartment which it'd all been found for me. Wow. And it was this spectacular apartment in Lisbon that looked out over the Cristo Rei, which is the big Jesus Christ statue, and the river, the Tejo, and it looked over to Alfama and the castle. So I'd done longer in Lisbon than I was meant to, because it was 18 months rather than a year, because I wanted to see the sort of programme out. So then I had a really quite short stint where I was working for the bank in New York.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, so I went back to the sort of swaps desk, the equities stuff, because I needed to do another 6 months so that I could then get back on the track with the 4th year.
Right.
So I was working in New York. I had an apartment there. I just
For what,
honestly,
6 months or something?
6 months.
Yeah.
So that I sort of caught up with I'd done the investment banking bit at the beginning. I'd done the Euro program, which was 18 months rather than 12, and then I did 6 months just to get back on track. And then that was
for people that don't. This is going to sound, because obviously, aside of that, it sounds so amazingly cool. What was the career you were going to end up with in your head at this point?
Still just didn't know.
Well, this is what I was almost going to say.
No idea.
You're
Just was
getting
having the
all
best,
this experience. You're getting
time.
all of this,
Yeah.
But so you're just going through it, and you're going to figure it out.
I'm just going to figure it out later.
Years.
But
yeah.
I think because I was changing, everything was changing all the time. I'd done loads of travel. I was really lucky. I knew that I liked doing projects for a certain period of time. I couldn't envisage myself in one job doing the same thing for any length of time.
Yeah.
And so when I got through my final year, which was I was in communications and marketing in Barclays, back in the sort of centre again. And then I finished the graduate scheme, and not long after that I thought, I don't want to pick a role and then do that.
Well, yes, yeah.
And so I that probably informed what I then did, which is I went into consultancy. So then joined a management consultant called... So I'd done little secondments with a consultancy called Bain and one with Anderson Consulting, it was called then. It's now called Accenture. And that was part of the Barclays kind of building you up and giving you a sense of, what's possible. And it made me realise that I love the idea of going from one job to another job to another job to another job.
So you didn't want to do something fixed. So like you say, management consultancy is perfect. Yeah. Okay, so then you're a management consultant.
So now I'm a management consultant.
And you're what, like 26?
So at this point, I am, probably am 26.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I started I started then a full-time position at PA Consulting. And again, it was just the combination of travel, using languages and learning was great. So I did various stints. I was lived in Brussels for about 18 months on a project for a logistics company that had offices all over Europe. I would leave on Monday morning and, go back on Friday. So I was kind of a commuter on the Eurostar, and then occasionally...
look at you, you're so modern. I mean, that's a really normal, common thing now. But back then...
Oh, God,
it's quite hardcore.
But then a car would pick me up to...
Stop it.
A car come and pick you up,
in the morning,
I'd travel, in first class. I'd have breakfast on the Monday morning, come back. The life of a consultant, and I think you have. So maybe this is a common theme. I think I've had imposter syndrome throughout my life. So, as a consultant, you're paid what seems like an inordinate amount of money. So you work really hard. Yeah. Well, if you're conscientious, and most people either want to get ahead because they're super ambitious.
Well, if you're not, you don't make it in consultancy.
You can't.
It soon kind of filters out the wheat from the chaff, doesn't it?
It does. It's certainly, a life decision.
Yeah.
So you can't get away. Well, I was never getting away with stuff. No. I wasn't living the right life of Riley. I really was working hard.
Still had imposter syndrome.
Yeah, because I would be getting on my commute on Friday morning on first class on Eurostar, zipping off to Brussels, thinking...
Who do I think I am?
Who do I think I am? I mean, generally surrounded by... I definitely had imposter syndrome through investment banking. It was proper man's world in that,
trading.
It's like the trading floors today.
Yeah.
But you know what? I absolutely loved it. And I thank school for that as well, in a way, because I was so resilient. I was so kind of...
Used to just...
I'd always used humour to diffuse situations.
Yeah.
I'd always kind of... And I think at the time... Not so much now, because I can't even finish my stories these days, but I was quite funny as well, so I just managed to get ahead.
Yeah.
So I was management consulting for, I think, maybe 6 years.
Okay.
So I've done the Brussels job.
Yeah.
I did various...
For the same firm, or did you change firms, or...?
So still PA Consulting, but I did the logistics job for this Vopak company. It was based in Brussels.
Yeah.
And then I did 5 or 6 other jobs. including one for the benefits agency, pensions agency up in Salford. So there was some not so glamorous.
Yeah, it's got its karma. It's got to balance it out.
And then I worked. The final one that I did was, whilst I was still a consultant, was working for BP. But they were doing a deal with this telecoms company called WorldCom, and they were going to globally outsource their global telecoms to WorldCom, and WorldCom were based in New York. So again, I was zipping off, and it was almost like a commute every month.
I was going to say that's not an every week thing.
But I remember being back in London, and I'm in PA consulting, and we're on a big call with WorldCom and BP at the time, and we had these big screens up in the consultancy office. And they were based on, I think it was 9th Street in New York.
Yeah.
And as we were watching the screens, the Twin Towers were
coming
down.
Yes.
And we were on the phone to the group.
Because I was doing the maths of that, thinking, hang on, you're like, what are you now, like 30? So that would have been,
And so the lines went dead. And so, but we could, real time on the screens, see what was happening. We knew they were about 9-10 streets away. And
you were in New York?
No, we were in London.
I was going to say, I thought you said you were in London. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
yes.
I was in London, so I'm watching the screens that are showing what's happening to the Twin Towers live. Do you remember? It was almost...
Oh, I really remember.
It was the most horrendous thing. But then we had been on the phones. Everybody was still there. Have you seen? There seems to be something going on. And then lines went dead. But anyway, that's how I first started working with BP.
Right.
And I did some other bits of work for BP, and I thought, this is a great company. I like BP.
Still in the still for the other company?
Still for PA consulting. Yeah. And I thought, what I loved about BP is really sharp people, but it was global. It's massive.
Yeah.
And I thought, I still don't really know what I want to do here. I know that, so what had happened is I took a sabbatical from PA. And I kind of thought, right, I don't know whether this globe-trotting at pace is
a forever
thing.
Yeah.
And then I took a sabbatical from work because I thought I can either go this sort of partner track, or I can have a think about somewhere like BP, which gave me what I needed.
They logged in your mind, didn't they?
So they had. It sort of logged in my mind at that point. In the end, the timing for mine worked out because I wanted to go sort of December to sort of Marchish.
Yes, yeah.
Timing worked for Costa Rica, so I applied for it.
Yeah.
And then I got the job, and I was a trek leader then for 3 months.
Yeah.
So you had a month getting ready. All these venturers, they're called, were going to arrive. And then led groups. So I did 3 different treks over 3 different months, for a month at a time. And so you've got people from university that have raised money, or, their parents have given them money to come and do these, 3 months away. You can still, there's hundreds of things like this now.
Am I speaking out of turn? And that's what William and Catherine both did
William did it in Chile.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
He did.
So you came back from sabbatical?
I came back. I was on another BP job. I can't remember what that was doing. I think it was running some of their award schemes, and I was getting more involved in the communications side of things. And so I'd always done... The consistent theme throughout, I guess, is change management. Big projects where there's either an organisation restructure.
Well, that is what management consultancy is. In whatever guise, it is forcing through and helping to force through change.
And there was an element of that in what I was doing. And then a lovely lady I was working for at the time, Fiona, said, well, if you ever feel like, jumping ship and going from consultancy, there's a job for you here. And so I took it. But it was an odd job for me. I was sort of looking after a part of the technology business, but from a communications perspective. So I needed to get back into change management and that sort of thing. So I guess what I've always had ever since, and I've been at BP 20 years now, and I never, ever
What did you get for that? Or is it not? Is it a 25-year
No clock,
thing?
no nothing.
Even a watch? Pen?
No, not recent times, no. Yes. So I joined a team called Strategy and Planning, which was in the centre of, and still in, Communications and External Affairs, because I thought I'd find my world. It was interesting.
Yes, yeah.
And the reason I joined BP is because it's always at the centre of global politics.
Of course it is.
It's always in the news.
Say that.
There's some reason or other, oil companies,
there's a fire, no
and
pun intended,
energy.
there's a fire to fight, isn't there?
There's something. So
from a
it's
comms perspective.
fascinating.
Absolutely.
So it's comms, it was sort of a mixture of PR, investor relations,
Yes.
government relations, brand is part of, brand and creative
What's the
is
term?
a
Is
big
it
part.
stakeholders, isn't it? All your
Yeah.
different internal and external stakeholders that
so
you've
it's
got to...
just loads of variety
Yeah.
and internal comms and everything else. So I like the idea of that area or that field, if you like, and that's what I've been in for 20 years, but I haven't had the same job within that at any point in time.
Right.
So really kind of started in strategy and planning. So I've always been, and now I run it, but from the beginning, I guess I was always in the sort of engine room bit.
Yes.
You know, what's our plan? What's our strategy? What organisation structure? What capability do we need to be able to deliver that?
this, yeah.
And so I kind of went through stages and just picked up more as I went on and on. So, I picked up the, capability. So we had 550 people in the function, something like that, around the world. So, what did they need training in? What did they need to be good at? How were we going to recruit the right people? What were the gaps and that sort of thing? So I'd own all of that. And then I took on sort of the budget and God, numbers have never been my thing, but I still have it, kind of budgeting and the kind of numbers, performance management side of things. But this is where, this dates when I was on mat leave. So as I was going down in the lift, there was somebody in the lift who said, I think there's been quite a major accident in the Gulf of Mexico. And so I leave work, not really thinking much of that, or just...
Leave work to go on mat leave?
To go on maternity
so
leave.
You're literally walking out the door. Yeah.
Up to Rutland. And 2 days later in the news, and you'll remember, Deepwater Horizon was in the news for months. And I'm off. So I'm off on mat leave for a big chunk of that.
Gosh.
And then when I came back in...
Did they attempt to contact you at all?
No, because I was on maternity leave.
They can't.
No. But I could, I'm still in touch with colleagues, and it's the most horrendous time. They worked, incredibly hard under huge amounts of stress right across the US corporation and the UK, around the world. And you can imagine in comms and external affairs, with governments and with,
Oh my gosh.
We were in with the, in DC, and, it was just fascinating and horrendous to watch.
Yeah.
But I remember going back into work, and they were starting to do so what do we learn? What do we need to do differently? What processes do we need in place? Etc. And so I got tasked with doing the review of, from a reputation perspective, managing our reputation, how we're going to build it from here, and also in terms of being able to manage a crisis from a communications perspective. What did we do well? What did we do not so well? And so I wrote a paper with...
It's not too bad, actually, because that's actually, you're coming back with almost sort of fresh eyes, aren't you? So it's a good project for you to do.
That's why they asked me, because I hadn't been part of the horrendous
you weren't
stress
biased
of
one
it.
way or another. Yeah.
So I'm interviewing all these people around the world, putting together a paper which went to the board to say, for future we need to set up these different programmes and we need to do X, Y and Z. And then that's what they said, well, that sounds okay. That sounds like fine advice. Luci and David, who was my boss at the time, you go away and do that. And so that was my job, was to set up...
So you almost sort of created your own job.
Yeah. Well, we needed it. I mean, it was crisis response training, reputation management.
Yeah.
We weren't drilled in how to manage reputation or how to engage around such a major incident. And so I've always had a portion of that ever since. Still own sort of crisis communications response for BP and training for that. So I used to travel around the world and we'd do major drills about an operational disaster or a cyber incident now. We get right into that. And so I've got somebody in my team who now does that.
Yeah.
But I've passed it over to kind of a group of people, but I still run, I still own it. So everything changes all the time. That's the only thing, is the change is constant. I have to have a new challenge really regularly.
Well, with that in mind, what's next then? Do you even know?
No, I am 53 now, and I don't intend to work, because I'm, where I live. I'm in Rutland.
Yeah.
It's a commute into the centre of London.
Yes.
I don't intend to be doing that into my 60s.
No.
What I want to do next is go and travel to lots of parts of the world that I haven't yet seen, and with Tom, and do it, almost go back in time to when I sort of had that gap year after university.
Oh.
We watch Race Across the World and go,
that.
Right.
So in essence, you're going to kind of keep doing what you're doing until at least B's at uni then?
That's the plan.
Another sort of, 3-4 years, whatever it is.
So I've got
3 years.
3 years. So in
Three and
my
a bit
mind,
years.
I'm 56 or 57.
Yeah.
And then Tom and I zip off around the world.
Yeah.
A bit sort of race across the world styley.
So you're going to basically retire?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, I'm going to ask you my 3 final questions. The first question is there any advice that you would give to your younger self? It could be any version of you. It could be tiny, like primary school, secondary school. It could be first job. Anything that you wish you'd known then. You now talking to little you.
So I think I was a bit of a sheep. I think I followed what I was supposed to do and did practical things. And, you know, when I chose my A-levels and my university degree, I did sensible things like economics and whatever. I would say follow your passion. So if I'd really followed my passion, it would have been for languages, and I would have been learning Mandarin. I would have been learning Arabic. I would have been doing... At the time, I remember thinking, well, and my dad probably a little bit also going, well, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
But I could have been in the Foreign Office. I could have, been an ambassador. I could have,
Yes.
So follow what you're really passionate about, because you'll be good at it.
Translator.
And you'll find something.
Yeah.
You'll find something. And I think that's the difference between then and now as well, is the field of, kind of jobs and things that you can do. The aperture on that is so much wider.
It is, but then I think it then gives children the opposite problem. There's too much choice now.
Yeah, but
and they
follow your
don't know
passion.
where to land,
Yeah.
other than the fact they just all want to be YouTubers and
No.
TikTokers.
No, you don't do that. Be influencers and
TikTokers.
And yes, all football, players or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think just find what you're passionate about, and don't worry about what everybody else says about it. If you love something, you can make
Try and find a career
with
with it. Yeah, if
You
you're
can
really
make a
passionate
career.
about it, you just got to delve into it and go, right, how can I make money doing something around this?
Yeah. And there'll be
because the
all
first thing might not be
sorts.
right, the second thing, but maybe eventually you'll end up with the thing that's just...
come up with a plan. And talk to loads of people about what your passion is, and they'll help you try and make a business
People
out of
got
it.
lots of ideas, yeah.
So follow your passion and not what you think you probably should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great advice.
That'll be it.
Question 2 is, what do you think your older self would say to you now? So 75-year-old Lucy, what would she say to you now?
Oh, that's really hard.
I know.
Because part of me thinks I have got a mental attitude now of stop work as soon as you can and follow all your other passions, because you've worked for long enough.
Yeah.
So maybe my 75-year-old self, because we keep going, we probably need to do another 2 years here and another 3 years.
Yes, yeah.
So it would probably be live for the moment now. If you're thinking about doing something in 5 years, think about, could you just do it now? You get into your sort of 50s and bad things happen to people.
Yeah.
And so don't wait.
Yeah.
It's
Great
probably what she
advice.
would say.
Yeah. And then the final question is always just, do you have like a mantra or just a saying, some life advice just to throw out there, things that you live and die by? I always try and describe it. If Lucy had a T-shirt, what would it say?
Oh, I don't know. Not without sounding super cheesy.
No, we love it. I'm all about the mantras and
Well, the big
the
cheese
affirmations.
would be, I don't know. I quite like que sera, sera, because I kind of think, control what you can control.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is all going to happen around you.
Yeah.
You can't change it, so don't worry about it. It's sort of control the things that you can control. But the rest of it, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt, because otherwise it'll do you in. So, que sera, whatever will be, will be.
Or you spend your life trying desperately to control things you can't control.
Yes.
Only to
It's
still be
kinda
told
let
down
that
the
go on
line.
around you. Yeah, let that swirl around you, and you get on with the things that you want to do. Do you know it happens all the time at work, because we can't control the media?
Yeah.
There's an example. What can we control? Well, we control our own performance, our storytelling.
Yeah.
This is what we said we were going to do. We're telling you now. But you can't control how the media then interpret and put that out as stories.
Yeah.
So we talk about control what you can control an awful lot at work, because we're in an environment of politics and geopolitics and Trump's decisions that affect a major corporate like BP. There are, the media can say whatever they want, and largely do, about people, about corporations, about everything. So it's kind of a life mantra, but also I certainly use it at work. We can't influence the media. We can give them lots of information. We can try our best and put our stories across. They then choose what they
say and do
put
about
out
it.
there.
And then your job is then to decide what you then do about what they do.
Yes, there you go. Well,
thank you very, very much.
That was lovely, thank you. That's actually quite therapeutic. I feel like I've been on a sofa.
I've had that before,
Been in the sun. I've got a tan.
You've got a tan.
I've been outside with, like the birds have been tweeting. I've told you my life story. I've seemed to have been able to remember some of it, if not all of it.
Yeah.
Albeit my memory is...
I guarantee with yours that I'm going to leave and you're going, oh my God, I didn't tell you about this whole stint in like
I know, it'll be all
Taiwan
exciting
or
stuff. It will be. Oh my God, I didn't
even tell you about this thing that happened. If you would like to hear more about this chat, see some pics and read about how to get started in this industry and or this role, then please go to our website www.twerk.org. The link is in this podcast page and across our socials. Sincere thanks.